to our meetup today. My name is Keith Tanaka. I work with SaltStack and have really enjoyed watching this meetup grow. We have online, we welcome everybody online as well. We have quite a number of you online, and yeah, so 41 others online, so welcome. Welcome to everybody online. This is a hot topic for everybody. But first off, we just want to thank Adobe. Adobe has always been a great partner of ours. Please thank Krister and all the other Adobe employees for providing the space, providing the food, and probably for a third of the year, the content of these meetups as well. But Krister and I were talking last night, literally a year from, give or take a couple days, Krister actually presented the concepts of Hubble, which we're going to be talking about today. And it was really through this meetup, getting it out there, many conversations, and then really Krister and team just going out and getting after it. We have Hubble today. So very excited about Hubble. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Krister is your guy. Krister is the guy to learn more about it. He is the project owner and creator of the HubbleStack project. And we've been supporting Krister this whole time. So throughout this presentation, I'll be monitoring the feed. So if there is any questions, feel free, those online, to post it in the chat. David says, nice man bun, Krister. And then we have a few microphones throughout this room. Jess, if you'll raise your hand right there. Tim and Paul, we'll have microphones. So if you guys have questions, just raise your hand and throw the hard questions at him. He likes hard questions. But with that, without further ado, Krister Edwards.
All right. You guys hear me okay? In the back? Okay. So, like Keith said, thanks to the magic of Facebook, I was reminded that a year ago, on the 27th, so it's been within a week, I did the original meetup with the proof of concept of this. At the time, there was only a quarter of it was done. I'll talk about the different components. Only one of them was actually done a year ago. Now we've got 4 components. We have way more functionality than we did before. It's a lot more polished, documented, cleaned up, and pretty, because everybody likes pretty logos and catchy names. So this is the top title slide. Security for DevOps. I've been kind of playing around in my head. It's really security for ops. Or, you know, if you are operator on a machine, you can use this. If you interact with Salt, you can use this. So those people, DevOps, SecOps, whatever ops you want to call them, whatever, this is probably for you. The quick one-line description: Hubble is a modular, open source, security and compliance auditing framework that we built on top of SaltStack. So if you already have Salt, you can drop this in super easy. It integrates with your existing Salt. That was part of the original design decision, was leverage the existing stuff as much as we can. And Salt's framework really made it really simple to build something like this. And so I guess I want to say, if you're not thinking of Salt as a framework, start to think of it as a framework. It's not just a config management tool or just a remote execution. There's a lot of stuff to it, and it does a lot. It enabled us to build this, essentially is what I'm trying to say. So there are four components of Hubble. We have Nova, Nebula, Pulsar, and Quasar. Just like Salt has all kinds of weird names like Pillar and Grains and whatever else, I thought I'd follow suit just in a different theme. Anyhow, Nova is the auditing and the compliance engine. We have Nebula, which allows you to take security snapshots or make queries against our systems or against groups of systems. We have a real-time event system with Pulsar, and then Quasar is the reporting suite. These all fall into Salt in different places that I'll talk about, but these are the main components that you'll hear me talk about today. This is kind of the overview of what we're going to cover. And at the end, assuming I have time, I might do a quick demo. So availability, Hubble is available for release. It's been published, and like a lot of you probably know, it's on GitHub. It's public. We open sourced it. So enjoy it, and please come back and contribute, give us feedback, make it better. We have 3 methods of installation. You can use the SPM packages we've created. This is the Salt Package Manager that was released in the 2015-8 release, I think. So you can just SPM install a couple of packages, and you'll be done. You can install from Git, do a Git clone, and then copy files in, just, however you might normally do it. Or, and this is actually going to be the primary suggested method in our next release, is just use a GitFS. If you're familiar with GitFS inside of Salt, you can just essentially point your Salt master to our release on GitHub and consume it with very, very minimal configuration beyond that. You can freeze it to our tags so you know it's on that version and it's not going to change as we keep developing it. So there's 3 methods here. They should be easy enough. And we have full documentation on installation on each of the components, on how they work, under the hood, how the profiles work, how the modules work. I spent probably a couple weeks just at home in my lazy boy, just documenting away. And I think we've got pretty much everything covered in there. So if you can't find something, please let me know. But check this out if you have any questions about anything. So first I want to talk about Nova. And I'll give kind of a quick start. Nova, like I said, can be, oops, I'm one slide ahead of myself. Nova is Hubble's auditing engine designed to audit the compliance and security level of the system. Essentially, if we simplify what Nova does, Nova allows us to define a baseline and then compare against that baseline. Now, you might think, well, create a baseline, are you talking about like golden image kind of stuff, like compare it against? We've made it really flexible, so you can compare against any baseline. I want to audit all my machines and make sure that this line is in the SSH config. Easy, done. I want to audit all my machines and make sure these services are not running, and if they are, I want to know about it. Or these packages shouldn't be installed, or they are, or they should be installed, or all kinds of stuff. You set a baseline and you define what you want the system to find or not find, and it will give you a report back of the results. So here's a quick start with the SPM steps. You can wget the SPM package, install it, sync your modules, run an audit. Done. 4 commands. If this took you 5 minutes, you type too slow. Like I don't know how simpler to make this. So you can do this and it will run a Nova audit using the default profiles that we've defined. I'll talk a little bit more about the profiles, but we have kind of a base set for a subset of distributions, plus a couple of other different type of modules that I'll talk about. But this can get you started really quick if you just want to play with Nova. Now, if you want to make Nova data a little bit more useful, you can send it to Splunk. So this is another component. This is kind of a peek forward into another component that I'll talk about in a little bit. But this is called Quasar. This is the reporting suite. So this would install the Quasar modules and allow Nova to connect to your Splunk installation, where you can then dashboard all the results. You can dashboard, our average compliance level is this. Here's the outlier things. Here's certain failures. Create PDF reports and whatever. So another couple steps, and you can send it to Splunk. Now, I've mentioned that each of the Hubble components, or Hubble itself is modular, and then there are 4 main components where those modules live. Nova itself has a number of modules. This is the current set of modules we have, and it may not look super long, but think about what you could audit using any of this functionality. I want to make sure that I have a certain firewall rule on all my boxes, or I want to make sure that the only whitelisted listening ports are SSH and postfix. If anything else is listening, I want to know about it. Or configuration values, CVE scanning, kernel parameters. These are just kind of the sub-modules that will compare on those different types of things that you want to edit against or audit against. But this is what we have now, and if you can think of more, let us know. They're actually fairly easy to write, but this we've found covers most use cases. Now, Nova is profile-driven. By that I mean you create these YAML files, these just plain text YAML files, that define all of these baselines. We come with a default set of profiles, but there's also a bunch of sample profiles, and you're expected, I would like more people to create new profiles and share them, and we'll have a little repository of, here's a profile for, the STIG compliance, DISA standard, whatever. Here's a profile for the CIS version 2. Here's a profile for whatever you want to think of. But we have, like I mentioned, we have a kind of a default set of profiles, but that is definitely a thing that we want to work on continually, is adding more profiles and giving a broader set of things that you could audit. But again, they're meant to be customized, they're meant to be flexible. Every company is going to have a slightly different, security stance or policy. So I'm not trying to say this is the policy that you should adhere to, and this is, customize it if you want to. Some of the things in the profiles you may not care about, so you can remove them. Some of them you might want more. But the idea is they're fairly simple to write, and they're meant to be customized. So please take a look at them and see where we can improve. Did I skip ahead? Okay. Sorry, that shouldn't be my next slide. No, maybe it is. It's just out of order. Okay, we're going to skip to Pulsar and not be alphabetical, because anyone cares about that. So, Pulsar is file integrity and security events. This is a real-time listener. This actually drops into Salt as a custom beacon and watches for file system events. So, kind of the thinking here is, a lot of people will say, my infrastructure, it's immutable, we don't touch it, or we only edit it through our config management or something. Are you sure? Are you sure nobody's logging in and changing stuff? We actually set up a report internally to my team that sends an email every day to show us how many times we logged into our systems, to try to be a deterrent and say, guys, you should be using config management. We should be using the proper ways to do this. No more one-off stuff, right? So Pulsar can show you real-time events. In this iteration, it's primarily for file integrity events. It monitors the file system, but we also want to expand it to include things like login events or failed login events, or maybe you want to look for, if somebody runs a certain command on the shell, like, I don't know, something bad, I want to know about it. There's other events that we can look for real time, and then we connect these events to the Quasar modules, and we can send those events to different endpoints and be flexible about where it goes. This little FAQ, it's all very customizable. You can define where you want to watch, what paths you want to watch, what paths you want to exclude, what kind of data you want out of these events. Do you want checksums? Do you not want checksums? What kind of hash do you want? All that kind of stuff is all configurable. And you can send it to multiple locations. So I have this configured on my systems to send the event data to Splunk, but also send it to a Slack channel that I'm in, so I can see these myself real time. Now, it's a little noisy in Slack right now for these file events, but when it comes to like login events and stuff like that, I don't know how a lot of other people's teams are set up, but we generally have kind of project ownership, right? This guy's in charge of these boxes, these guys in charge of those boxes, whatever. If someone else is logging into my boxes, I want to know. And I'll say, Evan, what are you doing? Get off my boxes. So this is the real-time event listener, and it's going to be expanded to do more. Now, Nebula is the other component. This allows us to do snapshots. Now, it can do more than snapshots, but that's kind of how I want you to think about it. This actually uses a tool that Facebook open sourced a while ago called OS Query. You can install this binary on your system. You don't even have to run it as a daemon or anything. You can just install the binary. And then through these custom modules, we can send queries to that binary and find out all kinds of stuff about your system, like running processes, listening connections, installed packages, all kinds, any way you could think, what do you want to know from your system? You can query for those things. And if we query for those things on a schedule, then we can start to trend them, and we can watch, and we can see when anomalies happen, and we can say, you know, why is there an outbound established connection to Russia somewhere, or whoever we don't like right now? I don't know. North Korea, is that safe to, I guess? So we can see these, and if we watch them, if we do them on a schedule, if we need to go back and do forensics, for example, we can say, oh, you know, we noticed that this started here, and we were taking snapshots every 15 minutes, and it stopped here. Okay, there's this window. We know when something happened. And again, just about anything else you'd like to query, you can. OS Query is super flexible, and generally they suggest you run it as an agent, but because we're running Salt as the agent, we can use the Salt scheduler to send our queries. We don't have to run any additional daemons. That's one thing that I really wanted to do from the beginning is let's not just keep piling on more agents. Let's use the agent we already have and make it really solid and make it be able to do a lot of stuff. Okay, so that's basically Nebula. Quasar, again, is the reporting suite. So this is just a collection of modules that combine the different, or connect, rather, the different components to an endpoint. So you want to send real-time events maybe to a Slack channel for failed logins or something. You want to send all your Nova audit data to Splunk, and then you can dashboard it and create reports. Maybe you want to get alerts to email or SMS, or, I mean, I know we already get lots of those as it is. We probably don't want any more. But this is very, very flexible. We can send it to just about anywhere. So if you want your data, if your company doesn't use Splunk and you use Elasticsearch, let's create an Elasticsearch plugin. It'll probably take an afternoon. It's really pretty easy to build these. And now you can send your data to Elasticsearch and create some cool stuff in Kibana or whatever. So this is another place where we could use contribution. We've focused on the tools that we use, like Splunk and Slack. If your team uses other things, please come talk to me, and let's collaborate on creating some other reporting modules. The current models we have, like I said, Nova to Splunk, Nebula to Splunk, Quasar to, or not Quasar, Pulsar to Splunk, Nebula to Splunk, and Pulsar to Slack. I wouldn't want to send Nova stuff to Slack. It would just be this big, long, like, it's not very easily consumable. But the Pulsar events are more easily consumable in something like Slack. A little bit about roadmap, and then I want to take some questions, do some Q&A, talk about what else we might do. We want to add a trigger functionality to Nova. So what this would do is if you've created a baseline in your Nova profile and that check fails, you can trigger an action that will fix it. That will say apply a state and put that back the way it's supposed to be. That's something that would provide remediation. Now, I didn't want to put that in the first version because I don't want to make changes to your systems automatically, right? I want to do this the right way. Like, how do we automate changing of, right. So it's a little bit touchy on how I want to do it, but we're talking about this for our next release. We want to add alert functionality. So maybe something fails and you don't want it to fix it, but you want to know about it. So this one thing failed, send me a text or something that this check failed. So we can add specific alerts to specific checks. Maybe it's this one box or this one check is really critical and it really should never change, and if it does, I need to know about it right away. That we could do through the alert functionality. We want to extend Pulsar to include login events and shell events. There's other kind of events we can do, but those are kind of security related-ish, right? So we'll start there. We want to allow templating inside of the Nova profiles. So we can do include statements, and we can do loops and all the stuff that Jinja provides us with. Right now, it's just you got to create your files and list them all, and we're not very flexible with the profiles as far as how they're generated, but that's something we want to add as well. I mentioned this before when we were talking about Nova templates or the Nova profiles. Right now, we have profiles for the CIS, that's the Centers for Internet Security guidelines that they publish. We have those for CentOS 6 and 7, Debian 8, Ubuntu, Red Hat. Nothing yet for Amazon Linux, which we discovered this morning that somebody needed. But they're very easy to make. But we want to extend these, not only make more, cover more distributions and cover more of the kind of base compliance, but also expand out to cover STIG and the DISA standards and whatever CIS level 2 and whatever other kind of standards people propose, right? Standards are great because we've got so many of them. Let's get more and add profiles for them, so if somebody wants to look for this, they can. We do have, gasp, Windows support. We want to extend that. We have basic support for Windows in Nova, so you can run an audit on your system with Nova. And Chad just left, didn't he? I'm told by a guy who just walked away, very timely, that Pulsar works on Windows as well. So if it doesn't work, we talk to Chad. But extending Windows support, because some people use Windows, I'm told. And then containers, everybody loves containers. What are we going to do about containers? In regards to the containers, I know a lot of people are talking about in Docker and this whole single process situation. So it doesn't always make sense to run Salt inside of a container because you just, I'm just trying to run Apache here. I don't need other stuff going on. So I'm thinking about building these, at least the Nova scans, building these into a testing framework, like something like Jenkins or something, but you push your container through and then we'll do a scan on it and see how secure or compliant it is against that baseline before it's moved to production or to the next stage or something like that. So in the situation where we wouldn't want to run Salt on the system, we can use Nova and some of these components to run scans on systems before they're live. Or there was also, I don't remember who did it now. There was a patch to Salt earlier this year that would allow us to run these scans in containers without running Salt in the container. I haven't looked exactly how that works in Docker, but I'm told it's in the next Salt release. So we may be able to do that as well. So with the containers, we have some different things that we want to pursue about testing within containers or running scans in containers. But that's still probably like a lot of the rest of you, containers are still something you're exploring or something you're kind of into, but it's still new for all of us, so we're still figuring that out and how Hubble fits in with containers. We also want to work on a masterless deployment setup. So people maybe who aren't running Salt or don't want to run a Salt agent all the time, we can install this as a bundle and do a scan, but never actually connect to a master or get instructions from a larger Salt infrastructure. So that's something we're looking into as well. There really is, I didn't want the master to be a bottleneck at any point, so there really isn't anything in Hubble that's dependent on a master. Everything here should be able to run masterless. I've actually tested most of the components masterless, and they work fine. The only situation is maybe how do I easily distribute all this stuff to my nodes without a salt master, but that would be for you to figure out, I suppose. But masterless deployments is also an option. It doesn't have to be running and connected to a master. All of the events are done on the minion. The real-time security events, like the Pulsar stuff, is done on the minion, and it even has an option to say, don't even bother sending this to the master. We're sending it to Splunk. We'll hear about it there. Don't even talk to the master. We didn't want it to bottleneck back up that way either. So this is some stuff, and I'm sure this will kind of change and evolve as we keep going. But beyond that, I have a short demo I'm going to try to do, and we'll hope that it all actually works. But if you want to find out more info, you can go to HubbleStack.io. This is where the project's hosted. This presentation is listed on the website, so if you want to go back and look at the slides, scroll down to the documentation on that main page, and there's an introduction PDF. That's essentially this. There's also a architectural PDF. There's a video recording of the last meetup we did on this topic, which we'll add this one to when this is done and recorded. And we have a link to the Read the Docs page. So everything you need you can find on HubbleStack.io. And then the docs itself is also called out there. Before I try to do a demo, is there any questions about any of these pieces or anything like that? Everybody listening? Okay, let me try to do a demo. I'm going to try to do a Nova scan and show you what a scan looks like and what the data looks like coming out. And then I'll show you a Pulsar event that sends something into Slack, so I hear about it right away. So let me just hope that these all work. Okay, we can see that okay? Is that font big enough? Hopefully. Okay, so this is just a fresh AWS CentOS 7 machine. I've already installed the Hubble SPM packages and made sure that it's set up, but I haven't done anything else to this machine. I just spun up the AMI and installed Salt. I didn't apply any updates, I didn't change any config, I didn't do anything else to the box. So I can say Hubble.audit, now that everything's already synced out there. Oh, it's not synced out there. Sync all. So between the Nova, Nebula, Pulsar, and Quasar packages, these are all the different components that it adds to your Salt installation. It adds 4 custom returners. Those are the pieces that connect to Nova, to Slack, or Splunk, or so on. Some execution modules, and some beacons. So again, all these components just merge right into Salt where they fit in Salt's framework. But now that I've synced those out, I can do an audit on this machine. If I don't give it any arguments, it will look for the default set that's distributed with Hubble. What that does is a CVE scan, if it's supported on the distribution, and it does a check against the CIS compliance benchmark. So I've succeeded on a number of things. I don't have cronny is running, all these little baseline things that maybe you don't really think about, but they're actually probably best practice or good to do. So some of these are actually done out of the box, but some of these are not. Apparently I don't have a firewall installed or running. Our syslog or syslog-ng is not running. And there's some vulnerable packages. So this tells me that there's a kernel update, there's libxml, important security update, critical updates, moderate. So this is this output is actually the result of reading in multiple different profiles and then combining all of that into kind of here's the result we got from everything, and here's the final report. The CVE scanning, the vulnerable packages, is done through one of the Nova modules. The CIS stuff is done through a kind of a combination of the grep module for some settings and the IP tables module for the firewall and so on. You can kind of mix and match these different modules within your profiles to give you a full view. Oh, we have a question?
So, out of curiosity, what if they publish a new CIS 3.0 standard? Are we going to need to, you're going to need to re-import the profile once again, or is there?
Right now, so the question is, so when CIS releases a 3.0, what does that mean for Hubble, right, essentially? So we have, right now we have CIS profiles for version 1 and version 2. When they make a version 3, we'll have to add a version 3. The thing that drives me crazy about the CIS standard is between their PDFs, between CentOS and Ubuntu, Debian, whatever, they're not the same. The numbers for the checks are not the same. So I can't say, you know, check number CIS 5.3.1, ensure password creation requirements are configured. It's going to be a different check number on Ubuntu or on Debian or on Red Hat or whatever. Even though the same check is called out in each PDF, they put a different number on it. Drives me crazy. Maybe it's my OCD or something, I don't know. But so if they made a 3.0, we would have to make a new 3.0 file. We do have a utility script that will help generate them, but it's not, it could use some work to help fully build them out. Right now, it kind of only gets a couple of the components of it.
So out of known CV, the vulnerabilities that are listed, how does it auto-update? I mean, new vulnerabilities come out all the time. I mean,
right. So what this one is using, one of the modules for Nova is, I don't know if anybody's heard of it. Maybe if you're in security, you've stumbled across them, but there's this website, vulners.com. This guy aggregates all these security vulnerability announcements from all these different vendors, and he put them into this API you can query. So we built a module that would query the API and get the latest CVE data real time. Now, if you don't want your machines to have a gateway or you don't want them to reach out like that, we have a utility script that you can run maybe on a cron that will fetch the data, and then you can serve it locally through your Salt file server. So, and we have example profiles of how both of those work. So yes, it is something that you constantly have to track. So running it through some automated cron or something to keep it refreshed should keep that up to date. Any other questions? No? Okay. Oh, we have one connect. Oh, so, right. So first I'll say the module is open. Please go take a look at it, see you know what we can improve. I know it sounds like it's some dude on the internet. It all has links back to the vendor announcement and all references to the upstream CVE numbers, and I mean, it seems to check out, but if you don't want to use that module, you don't have to use that module. So, which tool is used to consume the CIS benchmark? We have a little Python tool that we had the intern write over the summer that will parse through the PDF and spit out a profile structure that's used by Nova. So if they announce a new version or they, you know, do some more iterations on the CIS benchmarks, we can run this script that will help to keep these up to date. But that will be something that I think we'll want a lot of community support and help from, is contributing profiles and keeping profiles up to date. That's just, some of it's a little tedious, but it needs to be done. And it's a great place for somebody to contribute to an open source project. All right. Anything else? I'll do a Pulsar demo. Yes? Or okay. All right. So I have Pulsar configured to look for file events. It looks specifically for create, modify, or delete events. There are other types of events that we could add in there, but that was the start that we wanted to work with. So if I create a file, oops, where is it? I had it in my history. I'm going to create this file, hacksaw.pl, because Perl's evil. Sorry, Dan. And if I go over to my Slack, I should see these new events that just came in. So again, these file integrity events are a little noisy in Slack, but we're still refining them. But this tells me somebody just created this file at this path. Here's all the information about the file that we can gather, A time, C time, ownerships, everything else. We'll also get a checksum of that file, so you can look for, maybe if you're sending this stuff to Splunk, you can do searches for known bad checksums of binaries, which are generally released with CVE data. And you can look for those and say, ooh, we just got, somebody dropped this binary and we caught it really quick. So this shows the type of event. This was a modify. There's a delete and a create up here. So yeah, if I go and delete that, I should have another event. Now, I put this in snooze while I'm doing a presentation. I don't want somebody sending me messages. But normally I'd get, a little Slack notification, hey, something happened. So this is something that I like and I want to extend out to do more types of events. Right now we're still working on kind of polishing it and putting in a good list of excludes. There's certain paths that we definitely want to watch and other paths that don't make sense to watch. Don't track var log, because that's just going to chirp all day long. But let's definitely watch everything in the path, bin and sbin and so on. If somebody's creating stuff in there, then maybe we want to know about it. Now, a question that usually comes up, and I'll just answer it before it came up, is, so what if I'm using Salt and I'm upgrading 2,000 machines? Am I going to get alerts for 2,000 machines that I upgraded this package? Pulsar has two options to address that. We have a maintenance mode. You can toggle a flag in your pillar or in your config and say, put this in maintenance, and just throw events away. Or there's also a flag, and this one actually came from upstream Salt, but there's an ignore on state run. So if you're making changes through config management like you probably should be, the right way, it won't chirp at you. If the change is made using Salt, it won't chirp. If you're making them by hand, it will chirp. Or again, you can put it in maintenance mode. So that's a Nova demo and a Pulsar demo.
Hey, Krister, check the chat. There's a question. What if someone sudos to root? Creates the Haxor file. Will the user show up as root or the human who sudo to root?
No, I haven't tested that. But I think it'll show up as root. But if we expand that to login events, we should also know that you logged in. Maybe we add a sudo event. When people change to using sudo, I want to know about that, and I want to know who it was, and maybe we do something like that. But right now, yeah, it'll show up as root because that was the user, but we could possibly extend it to get the effective user ID, and that might actually just be a simple addition to the module. Any other questions? Okay.
The only available returner for, sorry, thanks, Keith. The only available returner for Slack is that
The Pulsar one.
Just JSON?
Oh, yeah, right now.
Assuming we can probably import and use our own.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, right, okay. So it's probably just a very simple addition to the beacon, and we can get that data too. I'm sorry, what was your question again? Okay, I got it. All right, that's about all I wanted to show you today. What I would like you to go home with, I suppose, is please try out Hubble. We want to get it in front of more people and get more people to give us feedback, see where we can improve it. We've tried to make it really easy to use and install, so hopefully you don't run into many problems that way. And please consider contributing to the project. There's plenty of work that we could do. And everything is done publicly. All the code is on GitHub. The docs are on Read the Docs, and we have a Slack team for collaboration and feedback and stuff. So all of that's listed on the main website if you want to find out more. Is that anything else really quick before? And I'll sign off and give it back to Keith, or?
Can you show us a sample profile if we wanted to program our own standards?
Show one of the profiles? Sure. So if I look at this CIS profile for Sept 7, for example, it's just this YAML syntax, but if you break it down, this top line is which module are we using. So it's a module declaration. Use the grep module, or use the package module or service module. And then within that module, we're blacklisting certain settings. We set the distribution compatibility with this. And then we say, here's the file, here's the pattern, here's the upstream tag, or the relation to the CIS document. If you looked at CIS chapter 9.2.4, it would be this, right? And then a description. So it's just a couple of lines. Once you kind of get a feel for how this works, which it might, for some of you, might look kind of complex. It's really very simple. But you just make a list of these. So look for all these settings and that we should not find because they're all blacklisted. Or down here we have package blacklist. So look for these packages and make sure that they're not there. We have package whitelist. We have the stat module, which looks for file permissions and ownerships. So the CIS ones are kind of long profiles because they run lots of checks. But some of the other profiles are really very tiny. Like this is the one that goes to vulners and grabs the data. We just give it a URL and a TTL. That's what the profile looks like. Different profiles look different. If I look in the samples directory, there was a specific CVE. Like you can even make checks that look for specific CVEs that you found upstream. Create this, say, look for this setting in this file. So that gives you an idea, but they're really pretty simple. You can create them, mix and match them, combine them, do whatever you need to create the picture for your security policy. With that, I think, one more.
Quick question on remediation. I know you've talked about putting in triggers for automated remediation. Is there any current work? It'd be nice to have a repository of, hey, this is how we fix it. We all fix things the same way.
Right. That's something I've been reluctant to do because for a lot of, let's say the remediation is fix something in the SSHD config, right? For the remediation, do we just change that one line? Do we change the file? How granular do we get? There's kind of how much do we do versus how much do you do? The initial thinking that I want to do for the remediation is, look, we'll put in the hooks and the framework for you to apply states, but write your own states.
Yeah,
so
it just seems
you
like
know exactly what you're changing, right? That fits your environment.
Yeah, but it'd be great out of the box to be able to just say, hey, apply these states, and we know this is in a compliant state for XYZ remediation checks. And then if it doesn't suit our needs, we can always modify this salt states. But it does seem like 9 times out of 10, you're not screwing with a lot of these config files that much, right? They're all done the same way. Remove plus entries in the Etsy page,
right,
or whatever else it is.
Some of them, yeah, some of them probably pretty standard that we could do. Some of them I'm reluctant to do It just
Well, as
depends
long
on
as
the
you could-
case, I think.
As long as you could apply it on a state-by-state basis, right? It just seems silly to have everyone write the same code when we could,
Well,
have a
yeah.
repository. And it definitely should be optional to apply, and probably optional to apply by item.
Well, and hopefully at some point, maybe some of the distributions will start adopting some of this stuff by default, and we don't have to scan them and then fix a bunch of stuff. That would be
We all
nice.
know that's a cat and mouse
But-
game.
Yeah, it definitely is. All right, I think I'll stop talking now. Come up, find me if you have any questions about Hubble, contributing, how it works, anything like that. I'll be around for a little while.
Let's give it up for Krister. Nice job. That was awesome, Krister. For those online, thank you very much. I know there's probably a lot of you in the Bay. We're coming there. We're going to do more meetups out there. For anyone here locally as well, next month, it's always the first Thursday of the month here at Adobe. Next month, Maverick is a heavy salt user. Maverick, the gas station. They have over a few hundred stores that they have salted. So they're going to be sharing their use case. It's an amazing use case. So come check it out next month. For those online and for those anywhere remote, if you want to do a meetup, reach out to me via our meetup page or anyone at SaltStack. We want to help our community grow within wherever you live or reside. We want to build that. It's great to see here in this room Trent, who just asked that last question, ran Salt Lake City DevOps Days. It was a great event. But going to these events, we get to know the community. This is our community, and we want to continue to grow it. So where is the meetup page? It's a great question. Meetup.com/.
Search for SLC SaltStack.
Yeah, SLC SaltStack is the group name. And this meetup is always broadcasted thanks to Adobe. So wherever you're at in the world, you guys can tune in. So thanks again for attending. Thanks again, Krister. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you.